I am appealing from the heart of a mother.
Ang working hypothesis ko noon na military ang nag-abduct kay Jonas. Pero ang malaking tanong, bakit?
There seems to be a cover-up.
Ito lang ang kaso na alam ko na ang court nag-rule that the Philippine Army is held accountable.
Magandang araw, ito po si J. Mark Tordesillas, Puma Podcast, at ang very special guest natin ngayong araw ay isang FAMAS award-winning Best Director at Best Picture winner. He is J.L. Burgos, the director of Alipato at Muog, a documentary about the 2007 abduction of the activist Jonas Burgos and the continuing search for justice to resurface Jonas. Direk JL, welcome to Teka Teka.
Hello sa lahat ng nakikinig.
So Direk, number one, congratulations. You won the FAMAS for Best Picture and Best Director last Saturday. Medyo kakaiba yung situation mo from most artists who win the FAMAS given the personal nature of this documentary, di ba? So what do awards mean for someone like you who embarked on such a personal project? I mean, other directors parang tribute yun sa aesthetic ng work nila, but your work is not purely aesthetic.
Yes. We're not really expecting the award, no? Alipato at Muog's the only documentary that was nominated. So we're not really expecting anything. We were there to experience the awards night. So ayun lang talaga yung objective namin. Pero syempre, dala rin namin yung story ni Jonas, ano? That's the objective of the film also, no? For that more people to hear cases of Jonas and other disappeared. So we were there. We're just having fun. So nung tinawag kami, parang wow, wasak talaga siya kasi parang talagang hindi kami nag-expect talaga ng kahit ano kasi yung mga kasabay namin, mga talaga, magagaling yung mga kasabay namin. Marami akong kaibigan na kapwa ko nominee na alam ko talagang magagaling din ng likha. So yung binigyan kami ng award, tama yung sinabi mo, no? It's not because of the aesthetics only. It is also because of probably it's because of what we were saying. So we were very thankful for that, no? Kasi parang pinakinggan kami ng FAMAS.
Yeah. Direct yung documentary medyo masalimuot yung kwento na kinukwento mo. Sabi ko nga dun sa intro, Jonas was disappeared in 2007. And ito yung kwento niya magmula noon hanggang ngayon. Pero masalimuot din yung journey nitong movie na to, making it to theaters even, 'di ba? After your run at Cinemalaya, you were given an X rating. Some of our viewers and listeners might not be familiar with the story. Pwedeng pakikwento mo, ano yung nangyari? Bakit? Ano yung dahilan nila for giving you daw an X rating, and how did you work around that?
First of all, I just want to say that Alipato at Muog is part of the Cinemalaya main competition in 2024. So after that, because of the topic or because of the story that we want to tell, we wanted to show to other people as well, no, as many people as we can. So we asked for a permit. Ang nagbibigay lang ng permit for us to publicly show the film is the MTRCB. So when we submitted when we asked for a rating, so binigyan nila kami ng X rating. Ang clause na ginamit nila, ang sabi nila, the film tends to undermine the faith and confidence of the people to the government. So sinisi nila sa pelikula namin yung kawalan ng tiwala ng mamamayan sa gobyerno. So kami ron, medyo talaga ang sama ng loob namin doon kasi documentary to unang-una. Tapos marami pa silang sinabi na nung sa meeting, their justification for the X rating. Una sinabi nila, what if balikan ang MTRCB ni General Anyer? What if?
Sinabi nila yan sa meeting ninyo.
Yeah. They did. Tapos sabi nila, masyadong left. Ganyan. So, subversive. We ask, ano ba yung subversive? Sabi nila, napakarami. Tapos sabi nga, leftist daw yung film. So, tinanong namin specifically, ano po ang mga scenes? Kasi sabi daw dun sa pelikula, ipaglaban. Sabi ng MTRCB reviewers ay hindi naman masama sabihin yun, pero sa mandato nila, bawal yun. Hindi ko alam kung anong mandato ang kanila pinag-uusapan, binabanggit doon. Pero sabi nila, merong animation yung documentary namin. Sabi nila, it's too graphic. Ganyan. Animation to pinag-uusapan natin. Tapos tandaan natin, documentary to. Tapos yung isang binabanggit nila, meron daw ongoing case ang Burgos case. So, pasok daw siya sa sub judice. Pero sinasabi namin wala kasi kami yung nag-file. Kami yung nag-a-accuse sa Philippine Army and the Philippine military na meron silang kasalanan. So dahil kami yung nagsampa ng kaso, alam namin kung if there's an ongoing case. So so we ask for ang tawag doon, certification na sinasabi ng MTRCB at sinasabi ng mga contacts nila sa Court of Appeals na mayroon ongoing case. So, nagbigay sila ng case number. Nang chinek namin yung case number, yes, it is about, merong case pa na ongoing yung nanay ko, pero it's a different case. So, parang perjury dahil ito yun ang nanay ko kasi ay, official siya ng karapatan. So, yung Armed Forces of the Philippines, again, filed the case against my mother. So, quote-unquote perjury. Yun. So, it's a different case. My point is, the Jonas case is done. Tapos na, nagsalita na nga ang Supreme Court na they said na ang Philippine Army is responsible and the Philippine National Police is accountable. So, tapos na yung case namin. So, ayun yung namin. Ito yung mga sinasabi namin sa MTRCB when we appealed. Nag-appeal kami kasi nga parang tingin namin, una, labag sa batas yung ginagawa nila, unconstitutional. Second, censorship yun. So, that's where we stand. So, when we filed our second appeal, fortunately, nakinig sila sa amin and tingin ko nakatulong talaga yung reaction ng maraming tao sa X-rating na censorship siya at hindi yun nararapat sa isang democratic society. Yun, ano ba tawag dyan? Nabigyan kami ng R16 na rating. So that's why we can show it na. Tandaan natin once a film is given an X rating, it's technically banning the film for public viewing.
Direct, mula yung journey nung Cinemalaya plus the X rating and then the appeal na finally naging R16, it was a year bago kayo nanalo ng FAMAS for Best Director and Best Picture. Mm-hmm. Ano yung naging journey ng film? Like, where did it take you and what has been the response of the viewing public toward the film?
Alam mo, wala naman kaming pera. Sa tingin ko nga sa lahat ng mga nominees sa FAMAS, kami yung pinakamahirap. Parang gano'n na pelikula. Kasi totoo talagang sariling bulsa lang namin sariling pera namin or mula sa bulsa lang namin ang ginastos namin. Aside from the grants from Cinemalaya and FDCP. So, dahil wala kaming pera, wala kaming commercial run. I mean, we went to the alternative screenings, opportunities like schools, ganyan, mga micro cinemas, ganyan. So, ayun ang ginawa namin itong mga past few months. Actually, tuloy-tuloy pa rin kami na pumupunta sa mga schools. We are invited and we show the film to students or kung sino man ang gustong manood. So, ganun ang inikot namin. So, sa lahat ng mga pinupuntahan namin, may mga experiences kami. Itong weird, di ba? After ng mga X-rating, mga ganyan, meron pa rin mga surveillance. May mga dumarating ng mga intelligence officer. So, pa rin siya. Parang, ano bang kinakatakot ninyo sa pelikula? Parang ganun na yung pakiramdam namin. Kaya, yung our resolve to show the film is, it was lalong na tumataas na siya. So, pero despite sa mga challenges na yun, ang nakakataba ng puso kasi yung nanonood, grabe yung support nila after nila mapanood yung pelikula. Parang pakiramdam talaga namin, hindi lang kaming pamilya ng mga desaparecidos ang nananawagan ng justice. It feels like, or I know for a fact that after they watch the film, kasama na namin silang kasama na namin silang sumisigaw ng justice. Ayun yung that's the best feeling that we wanted. Ganyan.
Direct, usapang aesthetics, no? Because obviously you won Best Director, you won Best Picture. It's a great cinematic documentary, and it's already a very personal project. But like many great documentaries, merong protagonist itong Alipato at Muog, and in this case, it was your mother. How much of a conscious decision was that to put her front and center of the documentary, her fight to find justice for your brother, her son? And was it hard to, I know it's already hard because obviously it's a personal subject, but to make that aesthetic decision to put your mother as the heroine of the story, was it a tough decision as a director?
It's not really that tough kasi from the very start she's at the forefront already. Parang siya parang walang tatalo sa nanay na naghahanap ng anak. Parang siya talaga yung she's the perfect protagonist kung storytelling ang ating pag-uusapan, kasi nanay siya, talagang kahit na anong gawin niya, anak niya si Jonas, regardless kung ano man ang accusations ng mga military sa kanya, regardless kung ano man ang sabihin ng mga trolls, nanay siya nanay talaga siya. So siya talaga yung and aside from that, dahil weird na sabihin ito, nanay ko kasi siya, alam ko kung paano siya mag-isip. So alam ko from the very start na siya yung perfect na tao na humarap sa audience ba, parang gano'n.
To just continue that thread, no? Parang nanay siya ni Jonas. But through the years, throughout this journey, parang siya na rin yung nanay ng grupo ng mga desaparecidos, no? Can you talk about her journey na gano'n? Parang may pagbabago ba, or was she already that type of figure from the very start, or did the experience with Jonas galvanize her into action, into organizing, and to take a leadership role? Kasi naalala ko dun sa dokumentaryo, parang siya na nga yung naghahanap din ng anak niya, pero nagiging source pa siya ng comfort for other mothers who have lost their children.
Precisely. Ang kasi, yung family namin, for those who doesn't know, my father is a press freedom advocate. He's an icon during martial law time. He was arrested during martial law because of exposés sa newspaper niya namin before room. Eventually nakulong din ng tatay ko because of that. So yung tatay ko talaga yung patriarchal yung family namin. So ang figurehead ng family namin na yung tatay ko. Nung nawala na si Jonas, patay na yung tatay ko at that time. So merong dilema talaga ang nanay ko kasi parati lang siya sa likod ng tatay ko at that time . Tapos isa siyang Carmelite. So ang Carmelite, meron silang vow of silence, parang ganyan. So grabe yung dilema niya sa kanyang puso na ano ba to, Carmelite ako, at sabi sa Carmelite ay meron dapat vow of silence. So ayun yung dilema niya from the start. Pero nung time nung nawala na si Jonas, na-realize niya, pinag-usapan namin to sa family kasi kung sino ba magsasalita for the family. Tapos sabi na ng nanay ko, ayoko nang iba ang magsalita kasi ayoko nang merong sumunod kay Jonas. Ako na lang. So siya yung humarap. Siya na yung nagsalita. My mom is very intelligent person and very yung puso niya, alam ko, ay nasa mabuting side. So siya talaga yung perfect na pwede magsalita. So yung progression niya from dilema niya ng paano ba ako magsasalita? Dati ayaw ako pasamahin ng nanay ko sa rally. Ngayon siya nang nasa harapan ng rally, parang gano'n. Pero nung nakausap niya yung isang mga mga religious people at mga madre, kinausap niya talaga. She asked for guidance. Sabi niya, "You're the mother. Hindi pwedeng hindi ka magsalita kasi kahit na anong gawin mo, kahit meron kang vow of silence, ikaw ang nanay ni Jonas. At kung hindi ka magsalita, sino pa ang magsasalita para kay Jonas?" So, in-accept niya yung role na yon. At dahil sa pagtanggap niyang ganun, yung ibang families of the disappeared, parang nabubuo talaga kami kasi all of us are missing someone we love, no? So, we take comfort from each other. So, yung nanay ko, matanda na nanay ko, 80 plus na siya ngayon, 83 if I'm not mistaken. So, nanay talaga ang figure niya sa lahat, Kahit yung mga ibang nanay na nasa desaparecidos ay matanda pa rin ang nanay ko, kumbaga. So, yun. Ganun yung progression ng kanyang ng kanyang yung evolution niya pagiging advocate ng human rights.
Direct, you mentioned yun nga, yung grupo nyo ng mga family members ng mga disappeared. Siguro for our viewers and listeners who haven't seen the movie, may naririnig din ako in my reporting na parang the families of the disappeared, sinasabi nila iba yung feeling of being a member of a family where one of you has been disappeared compared to, say, nakita natin during the previous administration, and Karapatan has done a lot of work in terms of extrajudicial killings. Pero iba yung disappeared. Can you try to describe, at least for those who haven't seen the film, bakit iba yung feeling pag disappeared yung kamag-anak mo rather than someone who was killed na at least may closure?
I-define muna natin yung enforced disappearance, Ako, tingin ko mahalagang i-define yan. Kakaiba to sa kidnapping. Ang kidnapping, merong kapalit na hinihingi. Sa enforced disappearance, sila ay dinuhot because of their political beliefs, religious beliefs, para sila ay patahimikin. That's the objective of enforced disappearance. Pero ang dumukot sa kanila, ito ang pinakamalinaw. Nasa batas to, merong anti-enforced disappearance law. Ang definition ng enforced disappearance sa Pilipinas, sa batas na ito, ay ang dumukot ay state forces or with the acquiescence of the state. Ibig sabihin, with the approval of the state. So, ayun talaga yung So, yung extrajudicial killings, oo, state din ang dumukot, pero right there and then makikita mo sila. Ako talaga, sa tingin ko, ang worst kind of human rights violation ay enforced disappearance. Kasi, pag ikaw ay dinukot, inaalis ka na sa protection ng batas. Meaning, pwede ka nilang gutumin, pwede ka nilang torturen, pwede ka nilang deprive of liberty, which ay disappeared sila eh. Pero pwede ka rin nilang patayin. So lahat ng mga human rights violations ay pwedeng gawin yan sa victim ng enforced disappearance. So ayun yung problema sa ganyan, hindi lang yung yung not only the victims of enforced disappearance ang victim dito, kasi yung family, yung kawalan ng sagot sa mga nangyari ay torture yun sa family. Hindi lang yung family, even the whole community is affected kasi yung fear na kine-create ng phenomena na enforced disappearance ay buong komunidad ang inaatake niyan. At ayun talaga ang objective ng enforced disappearance. Actually ginamit yan ng mga Nazis. Meron silang di ko alam po anong tawag sa German word kasi pero parang night and fog, Oplan night and fog, something like that So ang dati raw yung kanilang reasoning bakit enforced disappearance sa kanilang gagawin ay dahil daw kapag binaril nila yung gusto nilang barilin at mamatay, nagre-react yung mamamayan or yung mga people or the community to react, 'di ba? So or to dissent, so sila talaga kaagad immediately. Pag enforced disappearance daw, hindi nagsasalita yung family, yung kamag-anak kasi natatakot sila na may mangyari doon sa dinisappear nila. So ayun talaga yung objective talaga nila. Patahimikin, hindi lang yung dinukot, kung hindi yung pamilya at yung buong komunidad. So tingin ko talaga ang worst kind of human rights violation ay enforced disappearance. Tapos, sorry, let me just yung context ng bakit ba nangyayari ito sa Pilipinas? At alam mo ba na ang International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance ay hindi tayo signatory. That's the only major human rights treaty that the Philippines has not yet ratified.
That's
Tapos,
very interesting.
kung titingnan natin, i-analyze natin yung peak ng mga enforced disappearances, merong may pattern siya, katulad ng panahon ni Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Dumating dito yung UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Killings. So maraming patayan din ng panahon ni Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, maraming aktivistang pinatay. So ang ginawa ng UN, pumunta rito yung UN Special Rapporteur, investigated the cases. And the UN Special Rapporteur Philip Alston said na ang state ang may kasalanan na extrajudicial killings. So, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo stopped the extrajudicial killings. You know what happened after? Disappearances. Remember, the UN cannot go here because we are not a signatory of the International Convention. So, ganun yun. Ang panahon ni Gloria. Ngayon, nangyari ito kay dating Presidenteng Duterte na ang daming extrajudicial killings. Nagkaroon ng investigation. Nahinto nga yung extrajudicial killings na panahon ni Marcos Jr. Dumami muli ang enforced disappearance cases. 15 ang nakasulat ngayon since Marcos Jr. Marcos Jr.'s term. So, nagkaroon na ulit siya ng peak after magkaroon ng investigation sa extrajudicial killings. That's why we are pushing for the ratification of the International Convention.
Okay, so it looks like mahaba pa yung laban natin dito para ma-ratify yon at mabigyan din ng hustisya at matigil yung mga ganitong gawain. Again, back to aesthetics direct, no? Spoiler alert for those who want to catch the movie. The climax of the film is actually a confrontation between your mother and former General Año, who's now National Security Advisor, diba? How does it feel for you na yun nga, people who have been tagged in Jonas's disappearance, hindi lang sila nasa poder pero parang falling upward, so napopromote pa. And do you think that influence has something to do with all these hoops you've had to go through to screen your documentary and to silence your voices?
I really think so, no? Na meron talagang they are the people in power, the ones we are pointing to, no? Right now sila ay talaga yung nakapwesto. Even the this is what we've heard from our sources, no? Na kahit daw yung mga maliliit na mga tao doon sa team na yon ay promoted sila sa magagandang posisyon. Tapos, when the film was shown sa Cinemalaya, the spokesperson of National Security Council, which General Año heads, nagsalita rin siya about the film. Sabi niya, it is a rehash of rehash of the case, parang gano'n, that points to the military in abducting Jonah. So it's an old case, parang gano'n sabi niya. Pero sa batas ng Anti-Enforced Disappearance Law, as long as missing pa rin ang tao, the crime is still being committed. Diba? Logically, hanggat nawawala yung tao, the crime is still being committed. So, nung nagsalita yung spokesperson na si Jonathan Malaya, na ganun yung kanilang stand, parang alam ko na kung anong nais nila. Gusto lang nila itapon yan, itabi sa gilid at kalimutan ng mamamayan dahil luma na raw yun. So, may inkutob ko pati rin yung sa mga iba pang mga yung binanggit ko kanina na may mga surveillance na nangyayari sa aming screening. I think it's because we're pointing to the military that the military abducted my brother. So, Feeling ko talaga part yun dahil sila ay in power. Tapos at the same time, sa Pilipinas, kaya naman nagpapatuloy ang mga ganitong bagay, wala namang nakukulong. No one is put into justice, ano? So, it continues. So, yung impunity yung culture of impunity ay nangyayari. Tapos, yung last point ko, feeling ko talaga institutional ang problema. Alam naman nila na mali yun eh. Kasi kung alam nila at kung gusto nilang gawing tama yun, ilalabas nila si Jonas in whatever state he's in, or sasabihin nila kung sino yung mga team na gumawa nito. We have proven, as sabi nga ng nanay ko rin sa pelikula, we have proven that the military abducted the Jonas. Ang problema lang namin, we cannot prove to the court that these people are the ones who abducted my brother. Pero yung institution, the Philippine military, parang accepted na yun namin at ng lahat, no? ng marami. So, institutional yung problema. Tingin namin, institutional din dapat ang solusyon dyan.
Do you ever fear for the safety of yourself, your mother, and the family?
Yeah, always. Akala nila ang tapang-tapang namin, but hindi tapang yan pagmamahal kasi it's Jonas, it is my brother. Imagine, di ba? One of these days, Jonas surfaced. Tapos malaman niya na hindi kami nananawagan. Naku, heartbreaking yun para sa kanya. And we don't want that to happen. So it's not because of tapang, it's because of love of my brother, and we don't want this to happen to anyone else. Kaya rin namin yung pelikula Ayun talaga yung gusto naming mangyari. Magkaroon ng discourse at hopefully magkaroon ng kahit konting dent man lang sa culture of impunity.
Direk, na-mention mo kanina, your father, Jose Burgos, was a press freedom advocate during martial law. Your producer, Mona Nieva, is the daughter of Tony Nieva, who founded the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, also a press
He
freedom
was also
advocate.
arrested.
Yeah.
Si Tony Nieva.
And I'm sure as artists, you see sort of a morbid symmetry na yung mga tatay nyo lumaban noon kay Marcos, and you're now doing this work under another Marcos. What do you think of this administration as regards freedom of the press and freedom of expression, especially since there seems to have been a pattern this past year of documentaries being banned from screenings, there have been efforts to censor them. Are you seeing a pattern? And does the apple fall far from the tree?
Kaya merong aktivista kasi merong mga taong hindi makapagsalita. Tingin ko, kaya meron ding mga human rights violations na nagaganap ay dahil merong mga aktivistang tumututol sa status quo. So, ibig sabihin, there are forces that wants to maintain the status quo. And if we ask why, because they benefit from it. They benefit from it. Ang gobyerno ay isang malaking negosyo, malaking pera, malaking kapangyarihan. Merong mga forces na tumututol dito sa ganitong klaseng sistema. At dahil nga sila ay tumututol, nais silang patahimikin. So, kung nangyari nung panahon ni Marcos Sr. ang mga ganitong bagay at tumututol at nagkaroon ng human rights violation at and it's still happening up to this moment, ibig sabihin the status quo remains. Ang mga nakikinabang ay sila pa rin. Maaaring iba-ibang mukha, maaaring different political dynasty, different, maaaring taga Mindanao, maaaring taga Ilocos, maaring taga-Tarlac, pero different faces, pero sila pa rin ang mga nakikinabang. Parang ganun. So, at hindi siya umaabot sa dapat abutan ng economic benefits if there is one, ano. Ang mahirap ay mahirap pa rin, ang manggagawa ay paliit pa rin na sweldo, ang magsasaka ay wala pa rin lupa. So nagtuloy lang siya eh. Actually, pa-worsen lang siya ng pa-worsen. That's why I fear for the Philippines, ano. Pero based doon sa sa experience namin sa screening, parang tingin ko may chance. May chance pa rin tayong mabago ang lipunan. Parang gano'n. Kailangan lang mag-unite ang mga tao and say na tama na to, enough na. We really have to make a stand right now.
Direct, we've been talking to a bunch of directors dito sa podcast recently, no? Tapos napag-uusapan na yung after a movie, usually there's a process of sort of, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but a grieving and then moving on from the story just so you can move on to the next project. But in this case, parang ang hirap ata mag-move on in your case. So, what's next? What's next after Alipato at Muog? I know there's no moving on from this story, but how do you move forward? And what's the next step for you and the filmmakers behind this?
Siyempre, the screenings will continue. Tuloy-tuloy yan. Hindi namin alam kung saan pa sa kasalukuyan, pero ikot talaga kami sa sa buong Pilipinas, and wala pang hindi pa kami pwedeng magsabi ng mga ilang detalye, pero hopefully sa labas din ng bansa. So ayun yung sa Alipato at Muog. Tuloy-tuloy siya. Feeling ko kahit nawala na ako, kahit mamatay na ako, feeling ko dapat ipalabas pa rin siya ng ipalabas. Ayun yung another reason why I wanted to do the film, na kahit na may mangyari sa akin, nasabi ko na yung nais ko sabihin. Pangalawa, yung isang paano kami mag-move forward, we still look for justice. Gagawa pa rin ako ng pelikula, definitely. Hindi ko pa pwedeng sabihin, pero hopefully next month may pwede na ako mag-announce. Pero may mga projects na naka-line up.
Okay, we'll look forward to that announcement, Direk. Siguro to end our interview, if someone wants to do a screening of the famous Best Picture film, Best Picture for 2025, how do they get in touch with you to organize screenings and to talk about the issue?
Right now, we have a Facebook page. You can message us there. Naman kami, we're just a small team, so sumasagot naman kami kaagad. Minsan ako nga yung sumasagot, kasi wala kami pambayad ng mga tao to maintain it, right? So kami lang yan, small team lang yan. So mag-message lang sila sa Alipato at Muog Facebook page. Meron din kaming website, alipatoatmuog.com. Meron din doon ng mga paanong pwedeng gawin. So pwede rin mag-screen. If you want to screen or sponsor a screening, you can message us there. Meron ding donations. Nagkakaroon din kami ng donation drives na for the families of the disappeared. Kasi yung mga dinukot ng state, usually sila yung mga breadwinners din ng mga families. So affected din talaga yung buong pamilya. So nagre-raise din kami ng funds for the families. Tapos kung gusto nang mag-donate dahil suportado lang nila ang cause, ay pwede rin doon. So dalawa, Facebook page and alipatoatmuog.com website.
Okay, Direk, we'll leave all those links in the show notes for our viewers and our listeners. Direk, thank you very much and congratulations again. I hope you take the time to enjoy this victory, even though I know it must be bittersweet for you, your family, and your community of supporters. Again, congratulations and thank you for joining us today.
Salamat. Pwede bang humabol ng last?
Okay, yes.
Oo, kasi sa August 30 ay International Day of the Disappeared. We are pushing for the ratification of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. Magkakaroon kami ng malamang na campaign. Sana suportahan ninyo yung campaign. Tulungan nyo kami i-push ang gobyerno na pumirma sa sa International Convention na ito. Yun lang po.
All right. Maraming salamat, Direk. Mabuhay ka.
At mabuhay. Thank you.